Hi, Kyle. Welcome to the show.
Hey, John, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I was looking at your books on Amazon, and we're going to be talking about one in specific. I guess it would be your latest book.
Yes,
All right. Well, before we get to that, why don't you give us a little backstory as to who you are and how long you've been writing and what it's all about? Just tell us about yourself.
sure. Yeah, I grew up in California, Central Valley of California, on an orange farm out there. So most of your guests probably didn't grow up on an orange farm or do farming like that. But I did that until I was 18, worked with my dad, and decided that that wasn't the path for me. It took a while for me to make that decision, but decided that wasn't the path for me. Went off to Cal Poly, which is a college on the west coast of California. Absolutely gorgeous area, fantastic experience. I thought I was going to do kinesiology, which is physical therapy or exercise science, and then did an externship. And the guy was amazing. The physical therapist was doing things. He'd move someone's leg and then like twist their arm, and then they'd be better. It was the craziest thing, but it worked. And then I went, "That's amazing," but it still didn't click for me. I didn't. It wasn't for me. And by the time I got to my senior year, I was pretty lost as to what to do. I was 40 pounds overweight and I was a mess just in general and afraid of taking on life. And fortunately, I got a call from a friend that I'd gone to India with, and he said to me, "Hey, there's this men's mentoring program that I think you should be a part of." And I'm going, "That's fantastic. What's going on there?" So he explains to me some details, and they want me to work there. So I'm the guy that really needs the mentoring, but they
Hmm.
wanted me to work there.
Yeah.
So took the interview, sat down with the director and the president of the nonprofit, and then 9.5 years later, I walked away from the program. So I was there for a long time, did a bunch of things in the program, but I got a lot of mentoring and coaching under my belt while I was there. Learned a ton from the serial entrepreneur that worked there. He
Mhm.
was the president and still is. He's 80 and he's still working there. And he mentored me all those 9 years, every Tuesday for lunch. So I got my dad's mentorship, then his mentorship, and then jumped up into the Pacific Northwest with my wife and family. And I went, I need to use this experience of running businesses and working with these guys and put it into a business and into a book. And that's how we got to where we are today. That's a very
Okay.
short, 30-second
Of
version, but
course. Yeah. All right. So this is your fourth book,
yeah.
from what I can tell, and the one that you're promoting currently.
Yep, you got
Oh,
it.
okay, well, tell us all about it.
Yeah, so right now leadership is about the mindsets and habits of leaders of today. And there's 20 mindsets and 20 habits. If you embody those and you embed those into your life and into your leadership, they will shift the way you lead and they will help you become the leader you're meant to be. So I walk people through a very specific process to help them use these mindsets and habits so that they can embrace them in their business, embrace them in their home, and wherever they need them to help them lead in today's economy, in today's marketplace, and in today's homes as well. So you can apply them easily. I don't expect everybody to take on all of them at once, but I do expect and know that you can grab a hold of any of the habits or mindsets right now and apply them. And that's why the concept of the title of right now, because leadership is right now in this moment. And these mindsets and habits you can leverage right now and use effectively in your life and in your business.
Hmm. Okay. The subtitle, I noticed, says it's a four-part practice. You want to go through those four parts?
Sure. Yeah. So four-part framework is four things. So my business is called Blue Shirt Coaching, and I'm wearing a blue coat right now because that's the brand. But blue actually stands for an acronym as well. It's tied to my blue collar upbringing in farming. It's tied to the blue ocean strategy of open possibilities, but it primarily stands for four things, which are be a self-aware leader, lead with accountability, use a growth mindset, and empower others. So those four components make up the pillars of a great leader for today. And they also, underneath all those, are the mindsets and habits that help people move forward effectively.
Hmm. I guess anyone could be a leader at a certain thing within their life. I was a worker and I answered to my bosses, but in my personal life, I was always the band leader. I Starting at age 18, I had been in bands before then, but of course, always had to be led by older musicians. And then I became a leader, never stopped being, and I really like being a band leader. Would this help people who need these kind of skills, not for anything that important, but something within their personal life?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, most of the mindsets are very personal. And at the beginning, you asked a question about when I started writing. And I started writing technically when I was 16. I started journaling when I was 16. I didn't publish or anything like that until I was in my 30s. But one of the first habits I encourage people to do in the book is to start writing, just journaling. And so that is very effective and very helpful for someone, regardless of where they're leading or how they're leading, is to take the time to journal, to write. And the concept that I have behind it is when you and I are having a conversation right now, you're also having a conversation in your head. And you're having this two-dimensional conversation in your head about what I'm saying, about what you're thinking, formulating a question, which is wonderful, right? We need to do that. But when you journal, most of the day we're stuck in our own head having all these thoughts back and forth. And sometimes those thoughts are crappy, sometimes those thoughts are great, but we'll get stuck often. And leaders get stuck all the time, regardless of where they're leading. They get kind of flustered and stuck. And so if you journal, it's effectively turning this two-dimensional conversation into a three-dimensional conversation because you get this opportunity to disassociate from what happened in your day. So you can journal about it and then you can look at what happened. And now it's in effect a third party's perspective because you're looking at it without the dialogue going on in your head. And that's a really effective way to help yourself move forward, to deal with some struggles, to let go of some challenges, and to just get to this better place of understanding of where you are in that particular topic that you're writing about.
Okay.
So that's just one, and that's in the self-awareness area. It's just one of many that are very helpful for anybody that wants to lead themselves or others.
Yeah. Well, self-awareness, that's very important. I wish it was more commonplace. Would you call yourself a life coach?
I resist that a little, but now that I'm 6 years into coaching business owners, the thing that they often want from me is accountability. And that accountability, which is obviously the second pillar, that accountability is tied to their lives ultimately, because wherever they're hung up in their business, it's associated with them as a person and that's their life. And so for me, I'm coaching them on their mindsets and habits, which you can't separate those from your life.
Yeah.
So I often do touch on the life things that are happening in the business owners that I work with.
Okay. So it does help business owners because they have to lead, I suppose, their employees, and that can't be easy. I know I've never done it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the fourth pillar is all about empowerment, and that's the pillar that empowers the leaders to empower their employees. And I know it sounds funny, but you have to be empowered to empower is a line that I have in the book. And that starts up here. It starts in your own mindset. Can I actually empower my team or those around me? And I walk through a 5-phase process with my clients to help them do that effectively and consistently.
Yeah. Let's go one step beyond. At the risk of talking about politics, and I don't want to get specific about that, we call them world leaders because
Yeah.
that's what they are. Do you touch on that? Not to say that these world leaders are going to read your book. Maybe if they did, things would be better. But how do you view that?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't say too much about anybody outside of the US politics, but from my perspective, across the board, regardless of political affiliation, leaders today don't do a great job of empowering their constituents. So, if you just think about the Senate and the House and those that they're supposed to be representing us, and they've been in there for years and years and years, and they're very little in touch with who they're actually representing, and they're definitely not, in general, they're not empowering those like us that have some insights and some awareness of what's actually going on in real America.
Yeah,
So they're pretty insulated from those types of people, and those that do get impact them are more lobbyists that have their own agendas and have their own intentions behind what they're trying to do versus American citizens that actually have a pulse on what's going on.
yeah.
So how do you resolve that? I think you have to have space to listen to what people have to say. You know, you have your town halls, you have those conversations, and then you do something with that information. And on social right now, you're seeing a lot of that in the school boards where people are confronting people in school boards. You see that in other smaller contexts, but citizens are now finding their voice and speaking up and against whatever they disagree with or for whatever they agree with.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Controversy here in Canada, our Prime Minister and his cabinet, they passed a bill for online information that is going to be filtered out. So you shouldn't be surprised if you come up to visit Toronto and you go on your phone or your tablet that there'll be certain sites you won't be able to access.
Huh.
I'm not sure that's good leadership, but then again, I understand that we have a problem with hate and disinformation. I know we're getting off subject, but I tend to do that on this show once in a while, especially picking a brain like yours. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think censorship is really dangerous. I don't think that's too wise in the long run. We live 5 minutes from the BC border, and so we head up into Canada. We went to a concert a few weeks ago up there, and we go there for 5-pin bowling and swimming and all kinds of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how my phone, what when I search for things, what's affected there. But you know, even I'm not in agreement with hate speech. I'm not in agreement with language that's negative towards any sort of race or choice of lifestyle or anything like that. I have my own opinions about all that, but I think those folks should be able to express themselves without that being taken away, but also without it being forced on anyone. So my opinions shouldn't be something that's forced on anybody else as gospel, if you will,
Mhm.
and nor should anybody else's.
Mhm.
But they should be allowed in a way that creates this free exchange of ideas and information, because that's ultimately back to empowerment. That's what's empowering. And when you censor people, you're taking away their own ability to keep themselves accountable, right? You're taking that away. And then whatever you're not censoring then becomes what is the norm or what is supposed to be focused on, which in and of itself is skewing people's perspectives and opinions on things. And that's really unsafe as well, because there might be a whole group of people, millions possibly, that think that what's not being censored should be. So
Yeah.
we're,
Yeah.
you're just it's a problem, and then it's not a free and open, I don't want to say marketplace because that's not what it is, but a free and open internet. And
Yeah.
that's, to me, that's an issue.
Yeah. Now, can leadership be looked upon as just simply empowering back down to the average person who perhaps has gone through some difficult times, but perhaps a divorce or perhaps being shunned for religious reasons or whatever, and they're out there in the world and they feel weak and they're, what am I supposed to do with my life? Can a book like this help that person gain confidence and surety in themselves?
Yeah, for sure. I've built it in a way that as you look at the mindsets, so for example, I'm just going to pick one off the wall here. Observant. A great mindset for people is to have an observant mindset. This is really helpful for leadership because great leaders are really observant of those around them and the circumstances around them. So if you start to learn how to embody that mindset through what I write about it in the book, you're going to improve your leadership, right? Another one I talk about is risk. And I love this one because people struggle quite a bit with imposter syndrome. And some of the people you're talking about could be struggling with that as well, but they feel like an imposter. And to me, feeling like an imposter is a wonderful thing, because this means you're stretching yourself. This means that you're challenging yourself. And that little twinge of, man, I feel kind of like a fake, is proving to yourself that you're growing. And that's leadership, is a component of leadership, is making sure that you're growing all the time. And so taking those risks, feeling like an imposter, feeling like a fake, proves that you're growing. And that's really helpful, obviously, for leadership. So just a couple components, I think, that are in the book that definitely move people forward, that feel like they're kind of flatlining in their leadership.
Hmm. Of course, my mind's going as you're speaking because I have to formulate my next question.
Sure.
I'll tell you something about myself. I've been doing this for getting on to 2 years now.
Yeah.
After the first round of recordings, I had maybe about 50 people that I interviewed, and then I took a break like I generally do before my next round of recordings. And in that break, I remember talking to my wife and I said, I'm not sure I could do this. Why am I doing this? I felt possibly like an imposter,
Mm.
right? I've never been on camera. I've never interviewed anybody. And I just did it because I write books, and I thought, well, maybe I should interview other people who wrote books. What happened during that time, before I did the second round of recordings, I had a bit of a revelation. I realized that I can do this. I guess I went deep, and so I think I know what you meant by that last statement, being an imposter. I felt it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I guess reading your book could help people like me trying to get a podcast off the ground.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I did a podcast for 200 episodes, took a break, 200 and something episodes, took a break and started again. And I remember the first few weeks also feeling like an imposter, just like, who wants to listen to what I have to say? Who wants me to interview them? Like, what do I know? And then lo and behold, 200 episodes later, I'd done over 200 interviews and people wanted to hear me and they wanted to share with me. And they always, not every single case, let's be honest, but a vast majority of the cases, people would compliment me on the quality of the interview. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting this figured out. And then I also remember experiencing that with speaking, with public speaking. And you know how in networking settings where you are required to share your elevator pitch, you have 30 seconds to share your
Yeah,
elevator pitch about your
yeah.
business. Well, I first started doing that in the networking group when COVID had just barely kind of started and we were isolating in our homes or whatever. And I remember sitting in right here and shaking because I had to share for 30 seconds with this networking group. Now, every single week, I speak at least once, but sometimes up to 3 times a week. And I love it now. And it's just this big shift for me. But I got there because I continue to embrace the imposter, continue to embrace the lie that says I'm an imposter. What it's really happening there is I'm just being challenged. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit anxious.
Yeah.
But anxiety and excitement, those emotions in our brain are almost identical. And so I started to pivot that anxiety in my head towards excitement. And now it's permanently in that direction. I mean, there's still a little bit of nervousness, of course, if I'm speaking in front of a large group of people or something. But pivoting that emotion really took away that imposter feeling and turned it into this much more of an excitement and a pleasure to get that growth opportunity.
Mhm.
I'm not going to get shot.
Yeah,
Like,
sure,
you know,
sure.
like what's the big deal here?
Yeah. Who would you say is your main client or your customers for this?
Yeah, business owners that have 5 to 25 employees, and they are in a place where they're kind of plateaued in their leadership or in their business or in the revenue of their business, and they know that the efforts they've taken towards moving it forward haven't worked, and they're realizing that their mindset and their habits are actually in the way, but they don't know how to fix those. They don't know how to repair them or what to adjust. So the book helps them to figure out what mindsets and habits they can adjust or apply, and then easily make those adjustments to themselves, which then pays forward into their business.
Okay. Do you do any individual work with people who come to you for help as well?
Yeah, so I work with those folks one to one in what I call breakthrough session. And so people come to me typically with what I just shared with you, some sort of plateau in their leadership or their business. And often it'll be about they're not motivated as they want much as they want to be. They're not generating as much revenue or profitability, or their team isn't performing, whatever. There's some sort of a flat line happening in their business. And everything they've tried hasn't worked. Or if they've tried it, they haven't stuck with it.
Hmm.
And then they go back and they keep trying things. It's very much like people that go on a diet and they put all the effort in, they change their diet, they exercise a bunch, they lose the weight, and then 5 months later they've gained it back. And what happens there and what happens with my clients is the mindsets haven't changed. The negative emotions and the limiting beliefs about who they are and what they're about and what they're capable of is still in their mind, and they haven't let go of that stuff.
Yeah.
So when I work with them, I walk them through, it's 4 phases, and it's not blue. That's part of the process, but
Mm-hmm.
it's I help them to release those negative emotions, those limiting beliefs, and the misaligned values. Once they've released those things, then they can create from a place of freedom, because they're not going back. If you picture the stuff that's in our lives as baggage, just a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of baggage, and we're carrying it all the time.
Yeah.
And some people don't carry it, and you look and you're just metaphorically, you watch them zip past you in their life and in their business and in their success. And you're like, what the crap? What are they doing that they have all the
Yeah.
success, but I don't?
Yeah.
And then if you look closely, metaphorically again, they're not carrying any baggage, or at least very limited amounts. But if you look at yourself, or when I'm working with my clients at first, they've got 1,000 pounds of baggage that they're carrying around. So once you're free of that, now you can get squeezed through that door or get up that escalator to the next level in your life,
Mm-hmm.
because the baggage isn't weighing you down or
Yeah.
pulling you back. Once you do that, then you can create from a place of freedom. And if you're free, then it's way easier to take intentional action and stay focused. And those are the 4 components. And then you're not losing focus. So many people, they're like ADD, ADD. Well, it's just because they have this baggage that keeps dragging them back.
Mm-hmm.
So to resolve that first part, I walk my clients through a deep dive called a breakthrough session. And that breakthrough session is 2 4-hour sessions where we dig up all the baggage. And then I walk them through a very powerful mental and emotional release process that lets go of all the baggage. They dump it off, and then they're able to step forward after those 2 sessions with freedom. And this is something that I guarantee my clients will experience. And I've seen it every single time, and it is beautiful to watch them carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, and then they leave, and they're, most of the time, people talk about they're literally feeling lighter. The stress is gone. The issues that they bring to the table are gone. Most of my clients, interrupt me whenever you want, but I'll keep going.
No, 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 it's all right. It's all right. Yeah.
Most of my clients, when we do the beginning part, which is digging up all the stuff that's kind of messed up or out of whack, let's call it, the stuff would be just like beliefs about themselves or negative things that they're saying about themselves or their circumstances, right? Most people have about 100. In a 4-hour session, we dig up about 100 of them. They don't even realize that's the language that they have. But it's the I can't, or I shouldn't, or I couldn't, or part of me wants this and part of me wants that, that
Mm.
type of language. I can't get away from this. I can't grow my business. I can't XYZ, whatever. And there's 100 of them. The next day, we work through a set of emotions to help them let go of all the negative emotions and limiting beliefs. And then we go back to that list of 100, and we touch on every single one of them, and we check in on them. And I'd say when I work through that list with each of my clients, they have maybe 3 or 4 that they're like, well, those are still a problem. The other 90 plus completely let go of, completely free of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Truly incredible.
Yeah. Well, your clients must come to you with a sense of willingness
Yeah.
before they even talk to you, because I've met people who are just unwilling to change, and they're just pointing their finger, of course, blaming everyone else for their
Yep.
problems. But people who come to you have at least got a step one. I want to change. I just don't know how. And then you help them.
Yeah. And that's called being at cause. And what that means is going, I know that I'm responsible for where I am in life. Now, there's some clients that I've worked with that have experiences of abuse in their lives. They have experience of people just being absolutely horrible to them. Are they responsible for that experience? No, but they are responsible to choose how they respond to it, right? And that's being at cause. No matter how, unfortunately, those circumstances are terrible. But if we let them continue to drag us down, they're going to disrupt our whole entire lives. And I'm not saying it's easy to get to cause in those types of situations, but with at least this is somewhat of a guess, but at least half of the clients I've done this process with, they have that kind of history, that really rough history in their past, and they were able to I don't want to say move on or move past. I want to say learn from it, use it for good in their life, and press forward into what they want to, how they want to succeed. Right. So all that to say, being at cause is the first step here. Because if I'm choosing to blame and not take responsibility for how I respond to my circumstances, there's no way I can help that person. You can't even help yourself if that's where you land. If you stay in the victim place, even in the little things, if we stay there, we can't move forward. It's not possible. It's just not, it's a rubber band,
Right, exactly.
we get away from it a little bit and then it pulls us right back. And
Yeah,
I want to cut that rubber band. I
sure.
want to cut it, remove it so that the baggage is gone and they can move forward.
Well, exactly. If they come to you already, they must have something in mind, you know.
Yes.
I can't help but notice how good your video is, how good your audio is. Your background is beautiful. Everything about the way you look and sound is fantastic. So I have to ask, do you do some work using online services? Like, do you help people who aren't in your neighborhood around the world, around America? Do you do
Yeah.
work like
100%. Yeah.
that?
I'd say
Okay.
half, I think maybe only a quarter at this point right now are across the country. And the other three quarters are within 50 miles or so of me. Uh, and I also create courses. So I have 4 courses right now. And so I want to have good visuals to make
Mhm.
it work. Plus I got a window right here with cedar trees and other trees right here. So that nice light, natural light really helps.
Beautiful. And how's business for you then?
It's good. Yeah, we are jumping into a new phase of the business. So most of my business so far has been one-to-one coaching. In fact, pretty much all of it. And now I'm moving into masterminds. And my main focus right now is helping Christian men in business to we're creating a mastermind around that cohort and walking them through a 6 phase process to help them go from potentially a little bit of a plateau to living on mission, living on purpose, and 10 to 30% increase in revenue, all those types of things tied to the mastermind. So I'm pivoting towards a little bit more of the group coaching context in addition to the one-to-one coaching. And I'm really pumped about it. I've got a workbook. I just got done, so I'm super pumped. 50-page workbook to walk everybody through the mastermind process and the roadmap, which corresponds quite a bit to the book as well. So
Hmm.
I'm
And how,
excited.
and sure, I bet you are. How does one get a hold of the workbook?
Yeah, so you get the workbook by joining the mastermind,
Okay.
and it's part of the package deal. There's a course, there's the workbook, and then there's all kinds of other miscellaneous bonuses that I'm providing to people that join for sure.
Well, sounds very exciting for you. I
It
guess
is, yeah.
is your family involved in this, or are you doing this by yourself?
My wife helps me with some of the copywriting, and she also helps me with some of the video editing and a little bit of the promotion. So she was a nurse for 15 years. And then 2 years ago, we decided that, hey, let's go full time into this business. And so she's helping me out. And she's actually studying to do copywriting herself and start her own business as well. But I get the benefit of her learning how to do that and applying it to my business, which is great.
Good. Well, starting your own business is not easy, I bet.
Oh yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I think it's people make it harder than it needs to be in terms of starting. Keeping it going is a whole nother thing. And that's why 90% of businesses fail within 10 years,
Mhm.
right? And 50% fail within the first year because the continuing is the real tough part. That's for sure.
Yeah. When was your book published?
This one was published October last year.
Of 2023.
Yep.
So we've seen maybe about 5 months since it's been released. How's sales for you?
Sales aren't where I want them to be. One of the issues, which is a long story, but this is the second version of this book. The first version had a completely different title,
Oh.
and it had a different acronym that I used. It's still all the same content, but had a different title. And then I got a cease and desist letter from an organization with the same branding. They were a completely different organization doing completely different things. But they basically told me I can't do my podcast anymore. I can't do all this and threatened a lawsuit on me. So got a lawyer, and the lawyer's like, no, they can't do that. You're fine. And then so we wrote him back and forth. It was like 9 months back and forth, just emails. And eventually they said, well, no, we need you to stop. And if you don't want to stop, we'll take you to court. And my lawyer said, well, you can go to court. It's going to cost you $50,000 and you'll probably win, but I'm not sure what you're really winning if you do that. So I let the $8 billion gorilla beat me because that's how much the company was worth, and ended up rebranding. And I was number one on 3 lists when that all happened with my original book title. So I'm not going to mention the title of the book
No,
just because of what happened
of
there.
course.
But so then I had to redo it, which was fine. And I think this version's better. Uh, but the momentum was gone at that
Yeah.
point. So I'm rebuilding the momentum. I'm offering the ebook version for free, and then offering the printed version for just shipping and handling. I got a bunch of copies sitting behind me to ship off to people. So
Yeah.
we're going to go at it a different angle, because you don't quit. When you
Yeah.
believe in something, you keep going.
Yeah. So you took the contents of the book that we were not mentioning and you rebranded it. Did you add any new material or re-edit it in some way?
I did. Yeah. I would say probably 5% of it changed. Changed the acronym, and then I removed some content and then added a little bit more content in there as well. Because of course, I'd learned more since writing it. Could have been about a year
Yeah.
since I had published it. So,
I didn't notice. What's the length of the book?
let's see, 200 something,
Okay.
225.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Right. And the people who have read it, what have they told you about what they think of it?
5 stars. They love it.
Mm.
They're telling me the simplicity of it and the impact of it and the usefulness of it, right? I'm a very practical guy. And so I'm
Mhm.
getting feedback that's showing that this content is very practical, helpful. I am also finding that people don't just sit through it and read it over the course of a few weeks. They take their time to get through it, because there's so much you can use and apply right now. And
Mhm.
so when you do that, you stop reading, you apply. Then once you get that habit down, you come back and you continue to learn, you apply, you come back, etc. So it takes a little while for people to get to the book because of that.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned mastermind. Can you just clarify what that is exactly?
Sure. And so Napoleon Hill was a business leader, I want to say in the early 1900s, during the kind of the oil baron era. And he created this concept of a mastermind during that time, and brought all these minds together of great industry leaders to get them together in a room to mastermind around a specific topic, about business topics, about marketing topics, about whatever, any topic. And then from that, the collective wisdom of the group is greater than the wisdom of one, of course. So when you put a bunch of individuals together to make a team, they're going to be a greater whole than one person at a time, of course, right? So
Hmm.
with a mastermind, this is the concept. We're bringing in business owners with like-mindedness, with like struggles, but diverse experiences. So if Nick is struggling with his business and promoting it and getting leads, Joe, who's been running a marketing business for a long time, knows how to make that happen. But Joe is struggling with his imposter syndrome and
Hmm.
being brave about having conversations. But Bob's been running his business for 15 years and has been successful for about 12 of them. And so he's got a lot of confidence. And so the cross pollination, let's call it, of those conversations really levels up everybody. And it doesn't matter if the person that's the focus with their specific situation, if they're sitting there and everybody else is just listening to this person's specific problem, they're all going to learn too. That's the beauty of it.
Hmm.
I bring a problem to the
Yeah.
table, but everybody else is going to learn from it. And
Yeah.
and so you put all that together and you have really effective and fast learning.
Okay. So the way that it plays out is online with multiple people talking, perhaps using Zoom. Is that how it works?
Yep, I use Zoom or Kajabi. I use a Kajabi platform as well.
Sure.
And it's actually very regimented the way that I do it. There's only a certain amount of time you're allowed to talk so that everybody gets a chance.
Yeah.
There's only a certain amount of time that you're in the hot seat where you're the one that's the center of attention. So I keep it very regimented so everybody can get the most out of it possible.
Hmm.
because people like me can get everybody in trouble because I'll talk too much. And we don't need
Writers,
that.
us writers generally do. Uh,
Yeah.
I tend to ramble, and the older you get, you're going to talk more, believe me.
Oh no.
So how often do you do that?
Every other week. So we do Tuesdays at 11 for this group. And then I have another one that I do every other week as well. And then some people do them monthly and some people do them live quarterly. So
Okay.
it kind of depends on the design, but I
Yeah.
prefer the every other week
And
model
this and
personally.
this and this generates income for you.
Yeah. Yep.
Won-
People pay for a year-long membership to it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Do you have a website? I imagine you do.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Blueshirtcoaching.com is the website. You'll see more information about that mastermind I've been talking about, more details about I call it the leadership advantage, which is that breakthrough session that I was telling everybody about. That's on the homepage. Access to my courses, to my blog, to my podcast, all that stuff is on there for people to consume.
Okay. Well, sounds very exciting. Well, we should be wrapping this up, but before we do, why don't you give us a last word to promote yourself?
Yeah, for sure. If you want to learn more about what I do, obviously visit blueshirtcoaching.com. And then if you just click the book link, that's a great way to get access to my book. The ebook right now is free, so grab a copy of that. And then if you want the paperback, it's just shipping and handling. So that's a great way to get to know me and also benefit from my experiences and the coaching that I've done with my clients over the last several years.
Okay, Kyle. Sounds wonderful. I wish you all the success moving forward. You seem to be really knowing what you're doing. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and helping you promote your book.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
All right. You take care now. Thank you for watching. If you like what I do here on Tell Me About Your Book, then please consider hitting that like button and leaving a comment. You can also subscribe and ring that bell because I release 2 episodes per week, one on Wednesdays and one on Saturdays. And if you are an author, I would love to hear from you. Until such time, keep on writing and be kind to one another.